Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this month's community chat. Today, our focus is on living in possibility, staying positive while balancing work and life responsibilities. I know that we can all relate to that, so I can't wait for the exciting conversations that we're going to have today. Leading our chat today, we're so fortunate to have with us three seasoned chat moderators, Dr. Kara Metz, Katrina McNair, and Aisha Thomas. They've all led community chats and other events for us in the past. They are amazing, and we are so very thankful to have them here volunteering their time to be with us today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn the floor over to our chat leaders to introduce themselves and get our discussion started. Ladies, take it away.
Well, good evening, everyone. Super honored and thankful to be here. And again, just always a privilege to be here to serve you all. I'm going to kick it off to Kara to kick it off with the introduction. Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I am Dr. Kara Metz. I am a lead faculty here of the Health and Human Services Department, as well as a licensed professional counselor. And I'm very excited to be doing this talk because burnout and wellness are such a big passion of mine. I think we're just going to have this amazing conversation today.
All right. And I'm Aisha Thomas. Again, super excited to be here. Background a little bit about me. I call myself a militarypreneur. So I serve full time in the United States Air Force. I've been serving for over 18 years, soon to be retired. Outside of that, I am an organizational leadership and development consultant. And the beautiful thing is I've been doing a lot of conversations outside of diversity, equity, and inclusion in topics just as this. We've been talking about emotional intelligence, stress management, things such as navigating emotional literacy and how that impacts your day-to-day, because workplace burnout is real. Workplace balancing work and life and so on is real. And it's so great to see how organizations and institutions truly see how their team members will benefit from that. So again, excited to be here to have this great dialogue. And it looks like Katrina's here. So hey, Katrina, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. So we're just started off with the intros. So tell everyone about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name's Katrina McNair, and I have one daughter. I'm almost finished with my doctorate in educational leadership and learning. My main focus in life has been education. I've been an educator for over 20 years. Love working with children, love working with adults with disabilities, and just loving life. And I love reading books and just love being me. Hey, why not? We should all love who we are.
Yes, love it. Again, we've been planning behind the scenes, so we have something great for you all. So please, as you guys, as we go through this presentation, please, if you have questions, please throw it in the chat. We are here for you. This information is about you, is for you. Let's have that open dialogue as we talk about a real thing that we all have to navigate. So as we, as we navigate and have this conversation about work, life, balance, and it's bigger than just work, right? It's bigger than what we're doing, our educational pursuits, the things we do in our 9 to 5, or for me, it's more of a 7 to 4. That's how our schedules are created. It's so much more behind that. So I think it's important for us to kind of get into some stories. Like what was your story? So Dr. Metz, she said, call her Kara, but I just think I'm actually pursuing my doctorate. I'm finishing my master's in May. So I am going to start my doctorate in August. So, I'm like, I want to call her doctor because I'm pursuing that. So Dr. Metz, what was your journey of starting that journey of recognizing, you know what, it's time to put some work-life balance in place?
Yes, that's a great question. So my journey started many years ago when I was actually working on my doctorate. At that time, I just had so many balls up in the air. I got engaged. I was in school full time, so I had 4 to 5 classes. I was counseling 30 hours a week, as well as doing some student teaching. And so I made time a little bit for myself, but I really noticed some bodily feelings that would bubble up. And mainly in the form of anxiety, where sometimes I'd have a hard time breathing or relaxing, maybe some trouble sleeping. And so these were all signs that something was out of whack. So I did take time to reevaluate, and I did pretty well for a while. And then once I started working from home, it can be a challenge to keep that work-life balance, because you don't leave the office and drive home. There's not this physical separation. And so I again found myself in a place where I might sneak my way back into the room to do a little bit more work. And I would just find myself taking away from me time. And again, those feelings of anxiety, difficulty breathing, being tense, trouble sleeping, they all snuck up back on me. I need to be better at paying attention to that. But again, I knew that it was time to reevaluate my balance at that time and make priorities. No one else would be able to do that except for me. And that was a huge step to really just my overall wellness that I have had for the past few years. So that's my story. It really has been a very deliberate process that I have taken to make myself a priority, because it hasn't been easy. That's just not the way I think we are trained. So that is my story. Katrina.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to invite Katrina to share next.
Oh, yes.
Well, for me, prioritizing, I would say it was kind of a way of life, but with different jobs, life circumstances, and just moving a lot as like Aisha, a military brat for myself, it's not easy. But once you adjust, create your own schedule, stick to it, it becomes easier. But in the process, you have to set your mind thinking, this is what I want to do. This is my focus. This is where I need to be. I'm here at point A. How do I get to point B? And so on and so on. So taking it step by step instead of jumping all in so you don't feel overwhelmed is what helped me. Because when you jump all in, you know you have X, Y, and Z to do, and how are you going to do it? You just know I've got to do this, but okay, where do I start? And you see everything laid out in front of you, and it's beyond overwhelming, and you end up doing nothing because it's too much. So taking it a little at a time, saying, I can maybe work with my daughter today, maybe help her read a book. Maybe tomorrow, if I volunteer at her school, or the next day I'll do this with my job. Maybe I need some more training, this and that. Whatever I can do to help myself, help my family, I'll take it in steps. Because I know for myself, being overwhelmed only causes stress, raises my blood pressure. I don't need any of that. Get enough with the migraines.
I love it. Man, you hit on so much great points. I mean, for me, there was a point where transitioning from there was a point where I transitioned from being married, divorced, and I entered into single parenting. And it was a huge transition for me, recognizing that, okay, now it's just me and my children, and, me and Katrina, and I, telling Kara this story. Cause of course, in this process, like really getting to know each other and talking about this survival mindset that I connected to, like, I didn't even know unconsciously I had developed it. So, transitioning, not necessarily being a stable place financially. And yes, people think military, they're like, oh, you have everything. And it's like, no, it's because again, you still have bills and you still have so many things to juggle. So initially in my mind, I had to grind. So it was just hustle, focus, get things done. I picked up an extra job. I was just trying to find ways to make sure all these areas were taken care of. Now I pivot away from that, right? I pivot from that situation. I navigate that, and now I get to the other side of navigating just financial issues and so on. And I still find myself in that survival mindset. And it wasn't until I noticed that my son was having behavioral issues in school that I had to sit down, because now there were conversations about him possibly having ADHD. And it was, trying to be a career woman, moving up the military rank and navigating that space as being in a male dominated space and trying to navigate that. But then my son had a need that I had to pause and focus on. And that was my awareness moment of, okay, I have to find balance, because initially, there's just so much guilt, right? And mom guilt. I know we can probably, moms out there, you can relate to having mom guilt, but you also want to have this successful career, and if there's some single moms out there, just a mom period, you're like, I want to be successful, but I want, but I have a priorities of my children or whatever the priority is for you. But I had to make a shift. And, again, it was that pivotal transition where I had to pause and really make sure that he was prioritized, and just learning about his needs and learning more about ADHD. It really made me pause to recognize, okay, I have to focus on that and put everything else on the back burner. And again, it's been years since that happened, but that was my aha pause moment of, okay, I need to ensure that I maintain a level of what my mentor calls is more of a rhythm, right? Because it's like balance. Yes, we want balance, but he calls it a rhythm. So I can ensure that my children's needs are met. I'm prioritized as well, because that was a lot of stress to navigate now, a lot of stress now that I'm prioritized. Because at some point, single woman, you want to date. Listen, you want to, potentially find love again. But I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself, work on my emotional wellness, my mental wellness, and so on. We'll get into that later. And that was, again, that pivotal moment for me. So we all will have that moment where it's like, something sits us down and we're like, wait, I need to pause. I need to take care of myself. So ignore the, the extra two, right? Or it's oughts on here. But it says the key to prioritize what's on your schedule, right? It's to schedule your priorities. That's what it's basically saying. All right. So this is my way to decipher what you all are reading. The key to prioritize what's on your schedule is basically, it's like, it's about scheduling your priorities, right? It's really, sometimes we, put certain things first, but it's like, okay, I need to like really sit down and schedule my priorities. So it was important for us to share like those self-awareness moments when we had that, to recognize, okay, we all are human and we all have those moments. So I want to ask you all, like, when it comes to work life balance or rhythm, here it's highlighted, like it's defined by us, right? But there's this idea of what that balance should look like. Is it a one size fits all? What do you all think? Do you think that it's a one size fits all type of thing? And please put it in the chat. Do you all think that work-life balance, is it a one size fits all? Have you had this idea that it should look one way for every person? What do you think, Katrina or Kara?
I think that it should not be a one size fits all, because we're all different. We have, who knows what we're juggling. One of us could just have one child. Some of us have multiple children, maybe blended families, or maybe we're caregivers. And it, depending on what we can handle, I think that's how we split it up. Because if we can take on a lot, maybe it is the 20-20-20-20-20. But if we can't, you might just eat the 50-50 and say, okay, I need to breathe in between this and then go back into it.
I completely agree, Katrina. It is a personal journey. And sometimes when I'm in counseling with my clients, I have to talk to them about not comparing yourself to others. I'm just not doing enough. I need to be working harder. I need to spend more time at work and less time on the hobbies that I have. But you're exactly right. It's going to be different for everybody, and everybody handles different stressors differently. So you really have to figure out what works best for you. It's all about also kind of adding on to Aisha's statement before about the identities that we have and we consume, and figuring out where we need to prioritize some of those identities that we have.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you have to define that for yourself. And it looks like you all are putting some information in the chat. No, everyone is different, individualized, right? Definitely not. Thank you, Chris. And I'm an empty nester. My life looks completely different now. Exactly. I think that's so important, right? For us to recognize the different phases and stages that our life, the ebbs and flows we're going to go through. So maybe 5 years prior, if you think about what balance looked like then and what it looks like, it's totally different. And recognizing that that's okay. That's okay that it looks different. I don't think it's a one size fits all. Even for one person, those things can shift too. I love it, right? We're all in alignment here. So it can change and it's okay for it to change. And we do have to assess it on a regular basis to see what it looks like this season and so on. So good stuff. So good stuff in the chat. Okay. Now here's some stats. Now, when just looking at these stats, what sticks out to you? So this first one says 66% of full-time employees in America do not have work-life balance. And this came from Team Stage, 2020 results from a 2022 survey they did. So 66% of these individuals in America says don't have work-life balance. 60% blame their bosses for work-life imbalance. Is it the boss's fault? What do you guys think? Is it the boss's fault? I actually have a perspective on that. Americans spend less than 12 hours a week on leisure and personal care. Less than 12 hours a week. And then men spend more time on work and work-related activities than women. Right. I mean, and again, to us, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. So what are your thoughts? Kara, as far as maybe these stats, is there anything that stands out to you? And of course, maybe when you connect with some of your clients, I mean, has there been anything that has came up or maybe a pattern you have heard them discuss when it talks about stress and imbalance and trying to navigate all that?
I think one of the first things I hear is not putting themselves as a priority, putting work as a priority. And so I think as a society, that's kind of the mindset that society has set forth. And I think it has created some really unhealthy habits. Can we blame bosses? I don't think that, if you have a boss that requires you to be at work or be at risk of losing that job, maybe there's some blame, but at the same time, no one can make that balance except for you. And that's the really hard part. It's hard because we're not used to it. And so to put ourselves as a priority to find our balance, find our balance and wellness, it can be very painful, and it's a complete mental shift that some people have to do, and it's not easy. And so if you find yourself struggling, just know it isn't easy, and you're not the only one who struggles with things like this.
What about you, Katrina? Did anything stand out to you?
Yes, the blaming their bosses for work-life imbalance, I would say, as I'm speaking for myself, someone who's pretty timid most of the time, has been difficult for me to ask for what I would like from a boss. And I know I wouldn't say that's just women, but some men as well. And I feel that when you go in that interview process, we probably should say, these are the hours I need to stick to. I cannot move around that unless I say I'm flexible. And I think we have to be just as direct with the employer as they are with us, and let them know that I'm standing my ground because I have a family to take care of as well. I am a human being. Sometimes they forget that we are also human and we have lives of our own. So if we put that piece in there without being rude or disrespectful, just explaining, these are the things I have going on. These are the hours I need to work, and I cannot work outside of them. And I know some jobs like retail, daycare, and what's like grocery shopping, those stores, those places, they're hard on their workers. They really are. And it's because it's more about the money versus the worker. And I feel that it really needs to shift. But until there is a true shift, maybe someone from up in higher management, which makes a change, unfortunately, that is the way it is. But I feel that in other areas or avenues, it's more flexible. You have the opportunity to make some changes, not as much stress saying, okay, I can do this and I won't be able to, can't do that, unless absolutely necessary. And I think the part where men spend more time on work and work related activities than women, I believe that's true too. They're driven. They've always been built that way. That's how I see it. And we have more than one role versus men, I would say. I feel that men, they were known as the breadwinners for so long that now women have joined the workforce. I feel that we want to do the same thing, but we have dual roles. We have to work in the house and outside the house. So it's never ending for us until we sleep. So it's just like, I can't say it's like a vicious cycle, but there needs to be a balance with that. We need to take the time to say, okay, I need self-care. My health is failing and I can't take care of that because I'm still working with my children, still got to clean up the house. I got to cook. Maybe the car needs an oil change. All these things are happening, but you're still not taking care of you. We have to find that middle median happy place.
Oh, I think she froze. Okay, I think you're coming back. I mean, I think of this from following what you're saying. You have to find that medium, right? That happy place. And I agree, right? Can we blame our bosses? And it is true. There is like a culture of this is how it maybe you will be, or you will work with a leader that their mindset is work first, get it done. Do you have to do an hour lunch? Do you have to? Because again, maybe culturally, or maybe from them specifically, it's about, listen, I'm not, again, I had to get out of the habit of working. I'll eat at my desk at lunch. So I had a team member once that they enjoyed their lunch. They went out to eat their lunch, and it's okay. They should. So even when I transitioned from that role and I recommended her into this new position, I told that new leader that was going to support her, I said, she likes to take her leave and she likes to take her lunch. And I shouldn't have to tell her that. I shouldn't have to tell her that. But I already knew her mindset. She was used to Aisha at her desk all the time, eating and working through her lunch. And again, that was just something that I did, but I didn't want her to get into the mindset that's how everyone is. We should normalize. If someone wants to go up and eat their lunch, they're allotted an hour. Let her go eat her lunch. If she gets her leave, let her use or lose. I have 24 days to use or lose right now. I was like, this is ridiculous. I need to use this leave. So I went ahead and made sure that I scheduled it for next week. But the reality is, again, are you in that survival mode, right? Are you living? And I didn't get that reality until I worked for an organization and they were like, oh, I'm taking vacation for a week. And I clutched my pearls, ladies. I clutched my pearls. I was like, a week? What would I do for a week? But again, because in my mind, I'm not used to taking leave for that long. What are you guys saying in the chat? I love the conversation in the chat, right? I love the relatability. Who's taking leave for a week? Tell me, is anyone in the chat taking leave for a week? But again, it should be something we should do. They're living, they're going on vacation, they're taking road trips. Carrie, have you taken a vacation for a week? Please say yes.
Oh, yes, definitely. I love
why are we taking leave for a week? So I'm saying, like, we need to normalize that. Rainey put, I think that many of us drive ourselves to work too much, but we don't know how to stop. We're like hamsters on the wheel. Kristen, I do not think it is the fault of the boss, at least not here with our boss. That's good. Kudos to your boss. I sound like a total suck up and she is not here, but it is the truth. I know I think we place incredible pressure on ourselves and that is to blame. That's good. Aubrey, I think that a supervisor can be mindful of their impact on their employees. However, at the end of the day, it's majority. Yes, it's our responsibility to take care and protect our time. Yes, Kendra, work can be demanding and require more time than allotted. So it may be difficult to draw the line for employers while making yourself as available as those who may not have the same responsibilities. And I'm sorry, Kara, were you about to add something?
Oh, I forgot. So that's fine.
Okay, sorry about that.
Good conversation.
Yeah, go ahead, Katrina.
From what you were saying, I honestly feel that 1 week vacation or 2 weeks is not enough. I honestly feel that you go on a vacation, you're rushing around, trying to do this, trying to do that with your family. By the time you get back, you feel like you haven't even gone on vacation. And when your friends ask you or coworkers, what have you done? I don't know. It was such a blur. I feel like you honestly need either another week off or take a whole month off. I mean, even in the Europeans do that, definitely the Germans, they take a whole month of vacation leave, which makes sense because you need to recuperate. You have been dealing with X, Y, and Z for just grinding and working hard, taking care of family. When you get to time, an opportunity to relax, it should be, okay, we're going to do this week. This week, the following week, I'm going to sit here and enjoy myself. Maybe I'll read a good book. Maybe I'll watch something I've been wanting to watch this series for so long. Just take some time for me. Maybe that spa treatment, whatever it could be, but you need to have that week before you go back to, like Jennifer said, your mind, body, and soul need that time. Because when you go back to it, you're sitting there like, I need another week off. I just can't do it. That's to me, sometimes that's why people quit, because it's too much.
And being able to let go of your work, of the guilt that you feel that you might be putting a burden on other people. I do remember my first faculty position. I was given 2 months off. And that first 2 months I had, the first year, was the worst experience of my life. I had such a hard time not working. Because I've done it, since I've been 16. And so making that transition, my cat likes to be the center of attention. So making that transition, purposefully changing my mindset, I was actually able the next year and the few years after that to really be able to enjoy that time off. But it came with a lot of guilt and stress because I had to change my self-definitions.
But it gave you a chance, Kara, to prioritize you first for a change instead of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so good. So I've been reading this book by Brene Brown, Atlas of Heart. So good. So good, because the definitions, I'm again teaching emotional intelligence, but the definitions of words and terms or emotions that I'm like, well, I'm completely wrong. But I want to define for you all tranquility, because, we'll go on vacation. I just want peace. But just hear this definition of tranquility. So, and this will change your whole mindset next time you want to take a vacation. So it's defined. So tranquility is associated with the absence of demand and no pressure to do anything. Tranquil environments provide many restorative elements that are needed to counter mental fatigue and attention depletion. Settings that induce high tranquility include fields and forests and large bodies of water. Urban settings tend to induce tranquility. Why? It's noise, traffic, right? It's the city. But again, a lot of it, like, I just want peace. But in reality, a lot of us are looking for tranquility. Again, it's defined as it's associated with the absence of demand and no pressure to do anything. None. No demands, no pressure. Restorative elements, counter mental fatigue and attention depletion. So next time, right, you're like, I'm looking for peace. No, we're looking for tranquility. That's what we're really, really looking for. So look for those tranquil experience where you don't have no demand, no one calling me. I'm on vacation, but I have my laptop. Why are you taking your laptop with you on vacation? Leave it. Wow. Leave your cell phone in the hotel room, right? Leave the information there. But we'll get to the tools and the resources, right? Because we have so much more to talk about. So now we're going to talk about the sources of burnout. Oh, this is so good. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. Ask yourself these questions. What is the source? Because the source differs from everyone here. And again, the seasons are different. You might have a source of a burnout that varies. But ask yourself, why do I do so much? Where did that come from? Anytime when we're talking about emotional intelligence, it's really that self-awareness. A lot of us are on autopilot so much, we don't pause. Have you ever driven somewhere and then all of a sudden you're like, how did I get here? You knew every turn to make, you stopped at every stop sign. You didn't get it into an accident. You made it there. And you just moving. You get up in the morning, you get ready, you're just moving. That's autopilot, but self-awareness causes you to pause and really go through a process of checking in and assessing. But why do you do so much? Where did that mindset come from? Does it go all the way back from what you saw in your household, childhood? Mom did, dad did. Why do you feel guilty if you don't? Kara just mentioned it. Where's the guilt coming from? Why do you feel guilty? Is it people-pleasing behavior? Where did that come from? Right? Is it because I have a survivor or a not living mindset? Remember, I've been talking about the survivor mindset. Like you didn't even realize you didn't turn that switch off. I need more, but you have enough. You have enough. What is the root that developed this fruit of I need to do more? I need to juggle all these things. I need more degrees, or I need more jobs, or I need to continue to pursue more. What is causing that? What am I trying to prove, protect, hide, or defend that's causing you to grab more things to do? So Katrina, Kara, what pops up to you? What pops out from reading this source of burnout? Or does anything resonate from you from maybe a season when you were like, I'm burnt out? And I know it was definitely from people pleasing.
So many resonate with me. It's not even funny from what you just said. Why am I still pursuing a degree? And for me, it's really personal. It's because I just don't want to be perceived as dumb anymore. And I take that and I shouldn't maybe use the word dumb. It's just taking that out of context. It's just not as intelligent, I should say, because all my life I've always looked younger than I am, even a good 10 years. And I've been treated as such. And that has just made me feel like that I'm not capable, and people treat me as if you're inferior because you look young, you don't know what you're doing. But I have the experience, I have the education, and I do know what I'm doing. I don't go at people. I'm not someone who attacks people. I'm soft-spoken. I'm more of a pleaser. I try my best to just keep going. I do that. I am that person that keeps going, because the guilt for me is if I'm sitting there doing nothing, something's wrong, or I'm going to get in trouble for just sitting there doing absolutely nothing. I can feel eyes on me somewhere, and I'm like, let me just keep going. As long as I stay busy, stay focused, I won't be worried about the gossip or any of the problems, drama in my life, or even at work. I'm just doing what's expected of me.
Thank you so much for your transparency. Oh, so good. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kara.
I was going to say, your sitting and doing nothing reminds me of sometimes I will just sit on the couch in the living room, no TV, no radio, just sitting there in silence. And my husband will come down and said, what are you doing? Why don't you turn on the TV? Why don't you turn on some noise? I'm like, I need this moment of just silence. And all of these mindsets, for me, it's the people pleasing. And I don't think that I'm completely a people pleaser, but I feel like I need to do my best, get everything done as expected, so that I am a good employee, or I am a good mom, or a good wife, with all these hats that I wear. And so when I let somebody down or don't meet expectations in a certain place, I do have that guilt. So.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely have probably tapped into this in different seasons, right? When I was younger, it was definitely maybe to prove something, right? To defend something. You have seasons where you're just in defend mode. So it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. Or, you know what? It's in defense of myself, or even to someone else, or it's just to pick up pick up a lot of things. I'm West African. So, and I grew up in a household where it was like, no, you're going to execute, you're going to get things done. So it was always about, education, pursuits, and just really pursuing greatness. So it was always, the goal of just always doing amazing. And then even, growing up and adjusting to American culture, I had a season of my childhood that was troubled. So even now I find myself having to check in my adulthood to say, am I trying to make up for things that I did when I was younger, to prove people wrong who said you would never amount to anything? You don't even know sometimes the songs that are playing behind the scenes that are so unconscious. And I'm pretty sure there's conversations, when people meet with therapists and so on, and you don't even really realize. And that's why the power of self-awareness and then having these conversations, because the source of it. So like, where does this come from? You think it's surface level, but you realize that it's more than that. It's more than that. So let me see what you all are saying in the chat. Oh, good stuff in here. Oh, someone said, Akara, those moments are crucial. A good mindfulness activity, sitting in silence, reflecting for at least 5 minutes. Awesome. Teresa put, my car is a nice place to sit after errands or in a carpool. My teen daughter has started doing this. And look at that influence, right? I love it. Silence is so powerful. Kendra put, it puts me in a mindset of every minute wasted could have gotten me further. What else do we have? Jennifer, why do we always have to achieve something? Why is not being at peace or peaceful with daily affirmations? That's so good. What else do we have? Katrina, I completely understand. My husband is an MD. And I could not go through life without the egalitarian relationship. So here I am with a PhD for me to feel complete as well as an equal, even though he has never made me feel less than that. I agree with the desire to prove something. Thank you so much for sharing that, Kristen. Oh, this is good. Kalonda, I have been told that that many times. It was said I will never be anything, but that gave me strength to do the opposite. Exactly. And that fuels me today. I'm like, I'm going to prove them. So that does drive me, even in my pursuit to be on the PhD side. But again, it should, and it shouldn't, right? A piece of it does, you want to get that energy, but again, you want to make sure that it's not causing burnout. Because again, as they say, the haters, they'll say things that'll kind of fuel you. But again, you really want to make sure that it's not getting to the point where you're doing and you're taking on so many different things that you're not prioritizing yourself. So before we go to the next slide, I want to go back to Kara or Katrina, see if you guys want to add anything else to the source of burnout before we get into some tools and start talking about some strategies as well for self-assessment. So we can really start working through getting to the other side so we can get that balance or rhythm.
I mean, I'm going to go back to, holding that responsibility, and the source of burnout is often me. And I'm not prioritizing well, or I'm expecting too much out of myself, and nobody else is putting this pressure on me but me. And I think that's really important for us to pay attention to.
That's good. Katrina?
I think it's more than just pleasing behavior. I think it's a behavior that I should say even for myself, have just created, where you just, this is what I'm going to do because I have to, not because I want to, and I need to get through the day. And in order for me to have a good day, I need to stay focused. And that focus for me is being busy. That kind of behavior is what I'm used to. I'm used to supervisors or managers saying, oh, you're doing a good job. And other employees, why can't you do what she's doing? She's staying busy and she's staying out of trouble. I'm like, well, I don't ever want him to say that to me. So let me just keep staying busy. It's one way to stay out of trouble. So that's how I see it, as it's a learned behavior. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. And I had this conversation. So I had this revelation, right, about the, before we get to the next one, about the high performer. About high performer bias. And I just had that aha moment just watching like some of the stuff that was navigating with Simone Biles. And again, not to, pick sides on that, but it was like watching the Olympics occur. And when there are individuals that are on these top tiers, or even like the Serenas or the Naomi Osakas, decide I'm going to bow out, and the level of scrutiny they go through. And I just immediately connected it to high performers. And, being in that spot where you're a high performer. And if you're a high performer, you don't get the same grace as someone. And I hate saying average performers, but there's some individuals, they're just, I hate to say average performer, but there's some people who just go above and beyond in organizations or wherever they're at. And if you have a quote unquote off day, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, you don't get the same level of grace. So you can see how high performers can get burnt out so much sooner, or the grace isn't the same, because what do you mean you're not performing? What do you mean you're not going to perform in the Olympic? Like, what do you mean you're not going to play? What do you mean mental health? Like, it's not the time to have a mental health issue right now. You're at Wimbledon, or, all those different type of spaces that they're at when they're doing the variety of sports. Oh my goodness, you're letting your team down. But does it matter at what stage that they're having this moment of, I need to pull back? So I just had this moment of, man, is there high performance bias? And that's why they have those moments where they're like, check on your toughest friend or your strongest friend. Because the reality is there's some individuals that go hard regularly. They wear so many hats and they don't get as much grace. And when they do have that, hey, I need a break. What do you mean you need a break? Get it together. Get it together. All right. So now let's talk about some practices of self-assessment. How can we start self-assessing to really identify how we can start, again, prioritizing ourselves, because that's really what it is. We want to prioritize ourselves. Of course, you have families and other activities you want to do. So let's first looking at the hats that you wear. Have you really considered how many hats you wear? Mom hat. I wear a hat. I saw my mom when I get here. I wear my military hat, Monday through Friday. I have that hat on. And I have my business hat. After I get off here, I'm going to put on my education hat because I have some assignments to turn in. Next week is final week. I have a 10-page paper. Then after that, I have to put maybe another hat on. You might have a sister hat, brother hat, you have a cousin hat, like all these different hats that we wear because of all the different roles we play. What responsibilities are within that hat and how much time it takes? Because there's responsibilities connected to those hats and it's time connected to that. That might be, again, pulling you away from prioritizing yourself and those other things that might be getting neglected. And then how is it prioritized? Because if work's number one, if you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to? So Kara, what are your thoughts about that? Well, actually, let's first ask, how many hats do you wear? If you were to just throw that out there, and please in the chat, start typing out what your hats. What is that? What does that look like for you? But Kara, what are your hats? If you could just throw out some. And as far as this self-assessment process, what are your thoughts on the importance of this, or your thoughts on this overall?
So now I'm like, do I really wear that many hats? I mean, so I wear, obviously I'm a mom, so I wear the mom hat, I wear the wife hat, daughter hat, sister hat, my work hat, my consultant hat, my chauffeur hat, taking people around, I need to be fun hat. So there's all kinds of hats that I wear. And I was actually going to talk about, there's this great book that I read. It's called Burnout: The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle. And it talks all about all these hats that we put on and all the responsibilities that we take on ourselves that might not even be our own responsibility, but we kind of do that to ourselves. And for me, when I'm doing my self-assessment, I do body scans because my body knows when I'm not prioritizing well better than my brain does. So knowing when I'm starting to feel tense, when I'm starting to need stress relief, maybe I'm noticing I'm getting more headaches. So all for me, my self-assessment really involves paying attention to my body and then figuring out, and mainly it's how do I carve out time for the me hat.
Me hat. That is so important. That's the most important. I want to say that's the most important hat, but no, is it, it's like, is that the most important hat? Because if I'm not good, then, how can I show up well everywhere else? What about you, Katrina? What do your hats look like, and how does it show up as far as prioritizing and responsibilities and time? What's been taking up most of your time?
Well, I would definitely say like an assistant principal, that takes a lot of time. And with the supervisory role, then a mother, a daughter, sister, an aunt. And then when I volunteer, there's many hats in that department as well, because I do that through my church, and it's always me, me, me. And I'm like, I'm doing other things. Call on someone else, please. So it can be overwhelming, but what I've started doing is putting, like Kara said, the me hat on first. Because if I do that first, something my sister taught me was that self-care, working with my chakras, just helping me, because I've got to deal with me first. If I get out of the bed cranky, who's going to want to see that, let alone deal with that? Who knows how I'm going to take a certain situation if I am not in my right frame of mind handling that situation? I've got to take care of my mind and my body first before I can say, okay, to my daughter, what 16-year-old drama am I going to see today? How am I going to handle that? Because, you flip flop like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, and I get confused and I'm like, oh, I should not talk to you now. Maybe I'll wait till tomorrow. So it's just, we never know. And I feel like I have to slide in there with her and slide in at work, sometimes even with my mom, things that she's going through, being a caregiver with that. It's not, every day is different, just like the way we wake up. It's not, sometimes it's like our dreams. You're like, oh, yay, that was a good dream. Or wow, that was scary. Why did I dream about that? And that's how I wake up, emotional, instead of saying, okay, let's start the day. It's an emotional struggle to go, okay, let's get up, let's do this and move forward.
That's good. That's so good. And I see all the hats that are being worn in the chat. Work full-time, girlfriend, pet owner, student, daughter, sister. Okay. Mom, wife, educator, counselor, daughter, sister, consultant, realtor. So much. Teresa. Oh yes. Dog mom. Whoo. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is a hat right there. That is another hat. Lizzie, mom, sister, listener, student. Yes. Okay. Kalanda, mom of 2 special needs kids, teacher, daughter, MK consultant, assistant, center director, youth director, counselor, a best friend. I mean, don't forget about those volunteer activities that we do as well. Those are hats. Jennifer said too many hats. Too many. I'm not even going to list them. I don't have time today. I don't think the chat character, I'm listening. I might just, the chat, the chat is going to shut down. I'm not going to take time, but we need more support in our own me hat. I love it. Okay, Barbara, adjunct professor, high school principal, mentor, friend, daughter, consultant, writer, healer, new homeowner. Yes, that's a whole, I'm emptying boxes is a whole process. Okay, when I moved here, it's so interesting when you move, you realize how much stuff you don't need, because I have stuff in my garage I don't need. And then how much stuff you have, you're like, my goodness, how is this going to fit in this home? But yes, it's so true. And I love the question that was asked in here. Does anyone feel guilty when they put me first? Yes. Why do we feel guilty? I had a conversation with I call them my troops, with one of my team members today, who is being rushed. She's transitioning to a new role. They aren't onboarding her effectively. And she's like, am I being selfish for wanting to ensure that the process goes right? And I said, no. They just hired you and they're already saying that they want you to go on a trip a week later and you still belong to us. No, the paperwork isn't even finalized. You're not being selfish. You're a mom of 4. You're recently married. The week that they're asking you to go is the week that your spouse wants to go watch his son graduate college. No. Why do we feel guilty by putting us first? Where did that come from? Where did that come from? Yeah, go ahead, Kara. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think what people have to realize too is that if we don't make time for me, we can't be a help to others. When we're on empty, that's all, that's it. And so to be able, I think we all I think a lot of times we feel like we have this calling to be helpful to others. And so knowing that you have to take that me time to be of service to others, I think is really important, but it is hard to do because that guilt, it's a monster.
Guilt is a monster. It's a beast. Kalanda said, I do not feel guilty. Kalanda, tell us why you don't feel guilty anymore in the chat. Like, that's so good. You know, and I had to work through that. I have moments where I've had like a wave of mom guilt hit me all of a sudden. And I'm with my children, like every day, all day, right? Minus them, of course, they're going to school and so on, but I'm with them all the time. And I'm like, why do I have mom guilt right now? For being out my one time in the whole quarter, probably, I have mom guilt right now. But again, we have to normalize these things, and we need to get into circles that have normalized it. And again, it's a culture thing. It's a culture thing. And the more we start to hear and affirm ourselves, then the more that, again, this could be normalized in our spaces, in the relationships that we're in, personal, professional, even as leaders, because some of us are able to influence rooms and spaces and organizations as well. All right. So some tools, right? Because we want to get to some questions or some quick shares before we close. So some tools. We want to definitely talk about some tenets of wellness, some pockets you can start putting your to consider, so you can start again really working on that rhythm, that balance. Some apps, some time assessment tools that you can use. I'm going to give you guys some ideas for a 168 assessment, 168 hours in a day. Okay, assess your time, see where it's going. Phone apps. Just think about some things you can do as far as phone apps and so on. And also the conversation with third parties. Have you asked those individuals what time they need and identify realistic agreements, right, that you can create? Are these relationships healthy? Reduce takers. Oh my goodness. How many of us are in taker relationships, personal or professional? Is there someone else coming to your desk and say, hey, Lizzie, can you do this for me? Hey, Kalanda, hey, can you do this for me? Hey, Kara, can you? So what are your thoughts on that? Kara, Katrina, anything on here stand out, especially about takers?
I think the takers always come to me. They know because I'm not just a pleasing person, but the pleasant one. I'm not going to bark at you. I'm someone you can come to. So they'll take advantage of that situation instead of letting me have my little me time to move forward. I've got to handle whatever's going on with you before I can address my own situation. And it takes its toll. And that goes back to the self-care where we need to reevaluate. So I have started saying, give me 5 minutes because I just got out of something else. I can't just run into what you're going through because I'm spinning. My head is spinning, and it's not what I wouldn't be able to assist or help in any way. I wouldn't be able to give any kind of advice. And I think it's best to let me recoup 5 minutes and then move forward. And that's being realistic.
That's good. Kara, anything to add to any of this?
I mean, I feel very lucky because I don't have a whole lot of takers in my life. So, I mean, I think the biggest taker is me. Again, I own that responsibility. I'm a yes person. But I have really, really worked very hard on myself and being able to draw boundaries when I know that I'm not going to be able to do something. And that's been a game changer for work-life balance. And that's also helped me to manage people who might want to take a little bit more of my time than I have to give.
That's good. Assess those relationships. You know, there's a great book that I read by Dr. Darius Daniels. It's called Relational Intelligence. And it really allows you to look at your relationships. You have people in the friend category that should be associates. You have people in the associate categories that should, you really want to assess those and really assess those relationships and say, this relationship is based off of taking. This relationship is based off of, I have the taker in the friendship category and the giver in the associate. You guys need to switch spaces. And even in different seasons, it could change. We need to do these assessments on a regular basis. So just real quick, remember the 4 pillars of wellness: mental, physical, social, spiritual. So these are different things that you can, again, just think about. Do I have things to go to when I'm stressed, when I'm burnt out, when I need support? Something to support that mental. Like me, I'll watch videos. I'll have things that I say to myself, affirmations. You can even record it on your phone. I have affirmations that I have those mornings when I'm just tired. I just hit the play button and you hear, Aisha, you're great. You're wonderful. You're beautiful. Just record it on your voice memo. It does the work for you. So you don't have to say it because you're just tired that morning. You slept, you just up all night doing studying or whatnot. Physical, right? Those good endorphins kick in. Working out has been just a whole new, yes, you get results from it, but it just helps me just feel great. Social, those relationships. So much chatter going in here. Make a friend. Exchange information. I saw a book club pop in there. I'm definitely going to sign up. And that's how I learned about this book, is through a book club, Atlas of Heart. So what relationships are you in? Who can you connect to when you're feeling down? And these are healthy relationships, not takers, givers, right? And vice versa. Spiritual, like what are those connections that you have? Something bigger than yourself that you can connect to help you towards wellness. And then, as I mentioned, that time management, right? Sometimes with time management, there's time management versus emotional management. And that's really what it is. Because trust me, we'll give 100% in the workplace and we'll get home and we're like, I don't have anything else to give. But it's really emotional. So look at your emotional energy that you exerted at work, and then you have no emotional bandwidth, and it will affect your energy level. So what do you need to stop? What do you need to start? And what do you need to keep doing? And also recognize, okay, is my peak time in the morning when I have the most energy? I always seem to always need a nap about 2 o'clock. Guys, I take naps. Oh my goodness. I see why kids, we forget how powerful naps were. Okay. That's why we used to take them in, what's that, first grade or so? Take naps. They're amazing. They just rejuvenate you. Take naps again. So I know every time at 2 o'clock, I take a nap and it just transforms everything. So really consider that. And just real quick, and I'll definitely have, I'm trying to rush through here, Kara and Katrina, real quick. And real quick, just a 168 assessment, some things you can do as far as assessing your time is making sure that these are some things you can ask yourself. Okay, 168 hours in a week. If I really want to identify where my time is going, what you're going to do is throughout the week, right? In a week, ask yourself, how many hours do I spend sleeping? All right. So I sleep 6 hours a day, times it by 7, boom, that you'll put that for sleep. All right. This is how many hours a day I work, times that by 7. Okay. That, and then add it up, subtract it by 168. And you'll see a lot of times that we have untapped time, or time where like, we don't know what we're doing with that time. This will also allow you to recognize what's getting the number one priority, things you need to shift as well. So this is a great assessment to do in different times, different seasons, to recognize, again, what is being prioritized and what needs to shift. Those that have businesses, is it time to hire a team? Is it time to get someone, an assistant, a virtual assistant? I know it's time for me. I do all of my social media, my graphics, Canva, but it's time to hire out. So when is it time to hire out, distribute these activities to someone else as well to assist you with these things? That will assist you with all of those different areas as well. All right. So I don't even know if we have time for questions because we took it to the end, but definitely want to go to Kara and Katrina. So as far from the resiliency pillars, mental, physical, physical and social, or anything as far as the time management, did anything stand out to you as far as those areas that you want to share before we do close?
I have found that there is, with like physical especially, I feel so much better. I have so much more energy. I don't fall asleep on the couch at 7 p.m. Like I would do at other times. Also, that mental, you talked about self-affirmations, and this is going to sound so silly, and it reminds me of this SNL sketch that you've probably seen, but facing yourself in the mirror And saying positive things to yourself has a huge impact, because if you think about, if you maybe you're telling a little white lie to somebody, you're not being completely truthful, you don't tend to look at them in the eye. So if you look at yourself in the mirror, look at yourself in the eye and start to say these positive things, you'll start to believe them. And it can be so empowering. Social, I think with COVID, we've all suffered a little bit with that. And I bet you can tell that it has really had this huge impact just on how we can function. So I think all of this is great. I see it as a wellness wheel to find that balance. And there's a lot of great resources on that if you want to check them out.
Katrina?
I agree with you, Kara, about the social part. I'm going out of order with that, but I've joined a group with one of my best friends. She lives in California, but we're with a group on an app called Jish. And it's for people who are just weird, and we call ourselves weird because we do weird things, and it's fun because you can have your family do it as well. And you're on a team with a group of people. You're not even meeting in person, but your team, your goal is to get all of these items completed. And with your team, as you're organizing, almost like you're in a company, but this is just for the fun of it. And it's exciting, it's rewarding, because I get to do things with my daughter that I never would have thought to do. And I say, look, remember when we did this? Remember when you held the camera when I was holding the broom on my head? So just silly things. And then the physical, that's a little different for me. I'd have to do it, slowly build up to that before health reasons, but I can still do that. I'm thankful that I can. And the mental part, I do agree with you as well, Kara. I would say since this pandemic, I've really looked at myself in the mirror just from head to toe and say, I'm thankful for what God has created, because we could all have any kind of issue going on. And I'm just thankful that I'm still put together, feel, touch, hear, see, all those things, because it doesn't have to be. And I'm just thankful for it, thankful for me. And I have to be thanking God for blessing me for the life I have. And if I don't do that, I feel that I'm out of whack, out of sorts. I'm just like, what is it? Just not in my right frame of mind, quite honestly. I have to keep it together. And the best way to do that is like we're talking about this wellness wheel, putting yourself together, putting me first. And that's what I do when I look in the mirror in the bathroom, saying, thankful for this vessel, because anything could happen.
Yes, I love it so much. I love it. So what was your takeaway today? What was your takeaway? What is it that you can apply? I want you all to put something in the chat that you're saying, you know what? I am going to commit to doing this one thing this week, even tomorrow. What are you going to do so it can move you towards that rhythm, that balance? Come on, ladies. All right. Come on, put in the chat. What is something you're going to commit to? Come on, Kendra. Come on, Brandy, Kalonda. Thank you all for participating. Jennifer, Kristen, Lizzie, Rose, Teresa, Whitney. What are you guys going to commit to that you can do? Just for yourself, something you can do. There's some time you have. Do that 168 assessment. There's something you can do to put yourself back in that priority space. Self-awareness, journal in the morning, get up a little earlier or go to bed earlier. But there's something you can do. You guys didn't even realize being here, you prioritize yourself. You just pour back into yourself just by being here. This means something. You got some tools, some resources tonight that is going to help you move forward. So just think about that. Even if you need a moment, what is something that you can do? Just prioritize yourself, because again, put your oxygen mask first, or again, our mask first. Okay. So I know we're at the 7:30 hour, a little bit over 7:30. So if you all have any questions, definitely we're available for to answer those questions for you. But I know we're at the top of the time. So I will kick it back over to you, Brandy. I don't know if we have time for questions, but definitely kick it back over to you, and just appreciate you all for your commitment to yourself tonight. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much to our chat leaders. Aisha, it is always a pleasure to have you here, and you've done such a phenomenal job leading us tonight. And thank you so much to Dr. Kara Metz and Katrina McNair. I know that everyone has taken so much value from this. So thank you for being here with us. For our attendees, I just want to take a quick moment to remind you that March is coming up, and that's a very exciting time here at the CWL. During March, we celebrate International Women's Day. We always have a very impressive lineup of events, and this year we will not disappoint. We're going to kick off the month with our first event on March 7th. It's going to be a fireside chat with Millie Virgil. She is a senior vice president with Blue Shield. She's going to talk specifically about embracing courage to live and lead authentically. We're going to follow that up on March 9th with a panel discussion. I quit. We're going to learn that quitting isn't always a bad thing. And on March 11th, we're going to have a panel discussion with 4 amazing women that are going to be sharing their stories of courage. And last but not least, we're going to have another community chat coming up on the 15th of March, where you can learn to master your self-confidence and overcome imposter syndrome. So be sure to head over to the CWL website where you can learn more about these events and register for all of these amazing events coming up in March. As always, we appreciate you. We are here to support you, and have a wonderful evening.